serving multiple life sentences for child sex offenses.
An Oklahoma inmate is now accused of downloading and posting child porn from a state computer. We've got your back finding out how this could happen. His rap sheet is lengthy and disturbing. KOKH was convicted in 2015 in Tulsa County for multiple counts of child sex abuse, lewd molestation, and child porn. Now, he's an inmate at James Crabtree Correctional Center in Helena, serving 8 life sentences. But he's not just living out his days in a cell. 4 was allowed to have a job through the Department of Corrections work program, Oklahoma Correctional Industries. On its website, OCI says it employs offenders in order to help them acquire job skills that allow for the offender's successful return to society.
This particular inmate was the supervisor of 12 other inmates. Through the course of investigation, it was determined he had administrative access to the internet.
District Attorney's investigator Steve Tanio learned 4's job was working as an IT manager for a telemarketing center for Case Energy Partners. Fox 25 obtained the emails that show how he was given full admin privileges on the computer. Case Energy and his supervisors agreeing without question to give him access. Court documents detail how 4 downloaded child pornography, opened an email account, and then an Instagram account where he shared and distributed video. Instagram tipped off the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, launching the investigation. So when you guys track the IP address and this comes to a state-owned computer in a prison, what's your reaction?
It's not the first time we've had that happen with Department of Corrections, but yeah, it was fairly surprising for us.
So how does somebody like that get assigned a job where they're in charge of IT?
That's our big question, and we don't know how.
The Oklahoma Department of Corrections wouldn't answer our repeated requests for an interview about that very issue, citing the investigation, but did give us a statement that says in part the telemarketing program through OCI at James Crabtree Correctional was discontinued immediately upon notification of the allegations. Telemarketing programs were discontinued at all other facilities shortly thereafter. To ensure appropriate protocols and processes are in place, other inmate work programs through OCI are being reviewed and evaluated as part of an ongoing investigation. What we did learn in the new court filings raises even more questions. Investigators learned the background of inmates or previous criminal charges were not viewed or considered as part of their hiring practices, something that could have prevented this situation.
He made admissions to us and basically said once he had that access, he went down the rabbit hole and couldn't get out of it.
Around 1,200 Oklahoma inmates work for OCI-related companies, which contract with the Department of Corrections at 13 sites. It's a lucrative agreement for the companies and for the state, but as we found, it could be a deal allowing some of the most dangerous offenders the chance to commit new crimes. KOKH 4 now faces 3 additional felony counts for these latest crimes in Alfalfa County. This particular case led investigators to look into other job programs inside Oklahoma prisons. Stay with Fox 25 as we continue to learn what they discovered and which program the Office of the Inspector General is looking into next.
A Fox 25 follow-up tonight on work programs inside Oklahoma prisons. Some of the state's most dangerous offenders are taking on jobs you might not expect.
We've got your back finding out why investigators sounded the alarm and what's happening right now that has them worried. It all started with a shocking revelation. Child porn downloaded and shared from a computer inside prison. Convicted child molester KOKH 4 told investigators he couldn't help himself after he was granted full administrative access in his IT job for a telemarketing call center behind bars.
That was very troubling considering his prior conviction charges and what he was in jail for.
District Attorney's investigator Steve Tanio worked with the Office of the Inspector General at DOC on 4's latest case. That led to all call centers in Oklahoma prisons to be shut down. Now those investigators are looking into other work programs through Oklahoma Correctional Industries, including the Yearbook Project. Here's a flyer obtained by Fox 25 advertising the service inside Joseph Harp Correctional in Lexington. High schools can have their yearbooks scanned and processed at no cost by so-called low-risk offenders. These are examples of yearbooks inmates have digitized right on OCI's website. So who's handling your photos inside prison? Investigators say it might very well be a sex offender.
Scanning pictures, is that a concern for you when we're talking about children with their names and faces and pictures in the hands of some of these guys?
Especially child sex offenders, how vicious and the crime that is, and the psyche of those individuals. Any access to any children, I don't care if it's images or biographical data, is extremely disturbing.
Fox 25 obtained this list of the offenders we're told are working on the yearbook project, including convicted murderers, child sex abusers, and rapists. 28 of the 47 on the list are serving life sentences. We have asked DOC to confirm this list and are still awaiting their response. They did send us a statement which says from their investigation of OCI's telemarketing programs, information was received which resulted in the immediate suspension of OCI's document scanning program. As part of the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, Tanio wants to see more oversight from DOC when selecting inmates for specific jobs that are supposed to help them return to society successfully. In this case, your precious memories potentially in the hands of a predator.
The contracts to offer these prison jobs bring in some big money, both to the companies working with OCI and to the Department of Corrections, which only pays inmates a fraction of what it takes in for the work. Now, we have requested those contracts from DOC. Stay with Fox 25 as we follow the money and the future of these jobs behind bars. The clock is ticking as we await information from the Department of Corrections about their controversial jobs programs for inmates. A Fox 25 investigative series revealed serious concerns about inmates having access to you. We've got your back, continuing to press for details and finding out whether silence coming from the ODOC is legal.
It's your right to know what's happening behind bars. We started digging for information on March 11th after learning an inmate serving 8 life sentences for crimes against children got full internet access, then admitted to posting child porn to Instagram. Among our requests to the Department of Corrections, a list of the inmates handling photos of children and just how much these jobs programs bring into the state. No timeline yet from DOC on when we can expect answers.
In your mind, are they following the law?
It certainly heightens my concern that the agency is not providing what would be considered prompt and reasonable access to those records.
We shared our full list of requests with media law attorney Catherine Gardner. She agrees the information Fox 25 is seeking does fall under Oklahoma's open records law. We learned some of those inmates working in call centers and scanning yearbooks with little oversight were convicted of child molestation, even murder.
This particular group of individuals had direct contact with members of the public, which would heighten the public interest in this case.
We also have the right to follow the money. The state's contracts with private companies setting up shop inside prisons, employing inmates, are lucrative. We're told those programs, which are now on pause, bring in millions to state coffers. We're still waiting for the exact figure from DOC.
What in your mind would be something reasonable in waiting for this information?
How long does it actually take a employee of the Department of Corrections to go to a computer or wherever this information is located, pull it up, and send it on over to you?
What Gardner believes should take days is now stretching many weeks, an effort to hold officials accountable and get information you're entitled to.
Those jobs programs remain on hold amid an investigation within DOC. You can find all of our investigative reports on these jobs programs behind bars. Just head to okcfox.com. You can also head to the Fox 25 YouTube channel for all of our raw interviews and reports in one place. Just search KOKH Fox 25.
Lucrative deals with outside companies offering jobs to Oklahoma inmates, bringing in millions to the Oklahoma Department of Corrections.
We have an update tonight. Our open records request finally revealing just how much money was flowing into our prisons at the expense of your public safety.
These are photos of the phones and desks behind bars where Oklahoma inmates made calls for then Republican presidential candidate Michael Bloomberg. It made headlines back in 2019. We got our hands on the DOC contract with the company Procom to operate call centers inside Eddie Warrior and Mac Alfred Correctional through Oklahoma Correctional Industries. The calls didn't stop after that campaign. We learned in the last 2 years, Procom brought in more than $1.5 million to DOC. The Yearbook Project through Memory Lane brought in nearly $630,000. Records conversion, more than $550,000. Case Energy, Air Comfort Solutions, and Qantas brought in a combined nearly $800,000 in revenues. By far, the biggest cash cow was True Energy, more than $2.8 million. The total from these call centers over 2 years, more than $6.3 million right into DOC coffers. That cash flow has run dry. For now, those call centers are shut down amid an investigation involving criminal behavior and a lack of oversight.
Of course, the financial impact is significant.
When we spoke with DOC Director Scott Crow last month, he said safety and security will take priority in deciding whether to restart them.
I can assure you, as we move forward with this, under my leadership, my focus is not going to be on profitability. My focus is going to be on programs, workforce ready, those kind of things. And we've got a great avenue to do that. We just got to revisit what that looks like.
It was in one of those prison call centers where convicted sex offender Corey Ford admitted to posting child porn to Instagram. As his case involving these new charges moves forward, investigators tell us more charges could be coming involving inmates committing new crimes in prison and the DOC employees who may have allowed it to happen.
We have been investigating these controversial jobs programs inside our prisons for months. You can find our in-depth reporting on OKCFox.com. Just click on Fox 25 Investigates. You can also find full interviews from our stories on our YouTube channel. An update tonight in our continuing coverage of controversial jobs programs for inmates inside Oklahoma's prisons. Amid our investigation, several of those jobs were put on pause. Months later, the Department of Corrections now tells us at least 2 programs are back up and running. We've got your back with how one involves a company owned by a convicted child murderer.
Inside Joseph Harp Correctional, inmates are back to scanning images while the state makes money contracting with private companies. Qantas IT Solutions, also called American Digital Memories, sets up shop behind bars. A lucrative arrangement both for the company and for the state of Oklahoma. A Fox 25 open records request found the DOC brought in nearly $64,000 from Qantas just last year alone. So exactly who is the state profiting from in this particular arrangement?
You've always maintained that you are innocent.
Yes, ma'am.
That's Qantas co-owner Tony Davis, listed as an active inmate in DOC's database, convicted in 1986 and currently serving a life sentence for murdering his 2-year-old stepson Cole in Tulsa County. But Davis got released on parole in 2008. Along with his IT and scanning business, the former police officer now also operates a nonprofit prison ministry and told me he sees no issue with the state partnering with him now to employ inmates and turn profits.
No, ma'am, because I have a heart for that, for these men, because being incarcerated, I know what it's like, and I'm teaching them skills and teaching them how to become business owners when they get out of prison.
In a statement, the ODOC confirms there is no policy which prohibits them from entering into a contract with an entity because that entity has a shareholder with a prior conviction, and says the positive outcomes provided by these programs are a vital component of public safety. Public safety was a primary issue that led to a number of these jobs programs to be halted earlier this year. A Fox 25 investigation revealed those convicted of murder, rape, and child sex crimes had access to your photos and information.
What do you want to say to your young victims who are feeling victimized all over again?
And one inmate, convicted child molester Corey Ford, used internet at his call center job to download child porn and share it on Instagram. He's since been sentenced to 2 additional life sentences.
A DOC spokesman tells us future work with Qantas will be reevaluated at the end of the current contract, which runs through 2023. So far, no call centers or telemarketing operations have resumed behind bars.